The hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of culture brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally. Pages of rejuvenated reaffirmation, simply the almighty leadership of insightful craft work that stands to build through any confrontation born to be. Yet his daily duty is as a journalist that questions properly, uses his ears for the good to filter the real. And as the art decays, by dilution, he concentrates the best again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian, he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt, executed again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show on S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home-sewn garment, the Boricua with the build, the true and living, stepping in score, Sunyas, Allah, a.k.a. Skillustrator Low. And we are on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media. Every intriguing will have its own show. Every incredible thought will have its own episode, and every timeless insight will be archived. That's S.STREET Media, where we're on. Yo, a lot has happened, man, since the last episode I did. We had a great show with Don Pacino, Killer Army, Bugsy the God, from Napalm Music. So, go to Napalm Music, .bandcamp. Order those because they're not giving out physical they're only giving out physical copies of that. So there's no quick digital download just yet. There might be later, But Don Pacino's second effort with Bronze Nazareth came out too, and I'm looking forward to hearing that myself. So what are we doing here? We are on our 9th show. This is the show that is focused on this element of hip hop that I helped pioneer, the hip hop writer. Right? And there was something I had said a while back, right? I had tweeted this. I had said, this hip-hop writer element I helped pioneer and develop needs more warriors. It's just as annoying and worthless to hear rappers and MCs tweet themselves 5-star ratings every hour, right? As it is reading yarn from respect fake leeches. That is leeches. Remember that definition? A blood-sucking journalist sucking sellout pop niche rapper, right? So look at that, a blood-sucking journalist, right? Sucking the sellout pop niche rapper. That's what a leech is, and there's a lot of those going on, and I think with the Twitter and the social media, we get a different type of hype, a more consistent hype, a more believable hype from the artist. So when they say, yo, I'm the best rapper there is, if he's popular, people's really gonna believe that. If he says he's a lyricist, they're really gonna believe that. And he's probably the last person to talk about his own stuff, and toot his own horn though. But what is this hip hop writer? It's real simple. I define it as art on art and science on music. It's gotta have the science on music, man. It's gotta have the details of that music. Not say, when I used to write in all these magazines, the Source, Double XL, Vibe, I used to try to say, what could I say that would set apart what I'm thinking about the album differently? I felt other genres of black music were written more detailed. They technically knew more about music than the hip hop journalists that were out. What do I mean by that? In other words, when you see hip hop journalism, they might know about some samples, they might know about how the samples work, but they don't know about the drums. They don't know about the details of that. They don't know how to describe it. They don't know how to differentiate different styles and techniques. And it's actually a slow educational process if you look at the trajectory since the 80s hip hop journalism till now. You know, it seemed like it was high in the beginning, but that's because you had people like Nelson George and others. They were journalists of other genres writing about the music. So it led it to believe immediately that what was written about hip hop had a real understanding about hip hop music and the details of it, because their descriptive skills were on a higher level musically. But then as you had people from the hip hop generation writing about hip hop, then you saw a real downturn where you're like, you know, we pick up magazines and we say, look, this is a dope album because these drums are dirty. This guy rapped fast and it was really good. This is hot and this is blazing. You know, like hot and blazing are two different descriptions of songs. So that simplicity is what I was trying to differentiate myself from, you know? And so it ended up being the science on music. And I actually was inspired by, in many ways, other jazz writers on the music. And I'll give you one example, like what people wouldn't really notice. Ralph Ellison wrote the famous novel Invisible Man. But one day for a gift, I received a collection of his jazz writings. I'm not sure what the title of the book was. I still have it, but I forgot the exact title. But it was a collection of his jazz writings. So, you know, we usually pigeonhole people and think like, he's a novelist, he wouldn't write about this. But that's not really the sense out of it. In real life, a lot of the greatest writers, they're really writing about all different types of things, including their passions. And that would then transfer into the details of their next novels or short stories and poetry that they would create. So Ralph Ellison, you know, he was known for Invisible Man, but he was also known for not being able to do the second work, you know? Like he was Raekwon who didn't do Cuban Links 2, you know what I mean? And it was kind of, you know, and as a writer, when you write, I always, in the beginning, and this is before, I'm just saying for those that understand this is before I had knowledge of self. So I had a very great fear that I just wouldn't be able to learn more or see more. And when it comes to Ralph Ellison, when I read the book about jazz writings, I caught myself immediately hating, because his era that he loved was the 1920s and 30s. They would Duke Ellington and stuff like that. And at the time I started to collect jazz real heavy, I'm still am though, a Miles Davis man, you know? So I was the kind of collector that I collected 50 Miles Davis albums and then had like 5 Coltrane's, 5 Monks. You know what I'm saying? Like it was real lopsided in the beginning. It's not lopsided anymore. But the thing is that he was upset. Like, and I was like, yo, man, this is so weak. This is why shit don't progress. Because it was like shit that we deal with. He didn't like Miles Davis, and most of the beef had nothing to do with music. Although other people do have beef with Miles's music, because it went from traditional jazz improvisation expectations, right, to a more focus on the drum and a diving in a drum, which would end up being funk, you know, and they thought that was selling out, though. I remember I saw a show, oh man, what was his name? Lou Donaldson. We know the famous Lou Donaldson break. Puba used it on his solo album. Cypress Hill used it on Three Little Putos, that drum roll beat. Shoom, boom, shoom, boom. You know, that drum roll snare. That's Lou Donaldson. I forget the name of the song. So I'm watching Lou Donaldson. I'm like, he's not going to be a hater on the funk, because he has like one of the greatest samples. He getting paid off this shit. And I'm seeing him perform, and he's like throwing darts at Miles Davis. I'm doing jazz before, you know, it got corrupted and shit. I was like, okay, for whatever fan base you're doing, you know. And then I realized that old people be selling out too, you know. I didn't know that yet until I saw old people actually sell out to the niche. You know, like, I love Eddie Palmieri, but his song Revolt, La Libertad Lógico, the logical liberation, Revolt. I named one of my first magazines La Voix Revolt, after Hector Lavoe, La Voix meaning the voice, and Revolt, La Voix Revolt. So when I took my daughter to see Eddie Palmieri, they did Revolt, which is a banging joint. Like, that's a banger right there, right? And I'm like, 1, 2, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Where's the lyrics? I'm telling, I was hyping this shit up. The lyrics of man, pro Puerto Rican independence. Ain't do no lyrics. It was an instrumental. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, these man, the target markets. You know what I mean? Like, even dude's like 70 when I saw him. He's 80s now. He's still a legend. I'm still gonna go see him. But it was like, damn, man. Like, there's little concessions that happen all the time. That's frustrating. You know what I mean? But Ralph Ellison, right? He was dissing Miles Davis because Miles Davis would perform with his back turned. So he have his back turned, right? He'd be like that, and he wouldn't care about the audience in some respect. But most of the audience, he was basically saying a message like, yo, it's about the music. It's not about me. If you ever read Miles Davis' autobiography, right, which is really great, though. I think even Rock Marciano said he was inspired by that, which it's a great autobiography. And the thing about it was very much, this isn't the same, but just for the listeners that don't know their jazz like that, and y'all are like, as soon as you can talk about hip-hop, fuck out of here. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Right? To quote Stuck B, right? Fuck out of here, right? The Miles Davis was a lot like, in his mentality, like MF Doom. I'm gonna wear the mask, and it's not gonna matter what I look like or anything like that. You know what I mean? Let's not forget that one of Miles Davis's famous encounters back in the late 50s when he was doing all the classics. I'm talking about Kinda Blue, the classic modal jazz records, Sketches of Spain, like stuff that you play for your women, you know what I mean? Like when you want to, like, yo, let me show this woman that I am cultured like a motherfucker, though. Then you play Blue and Green. I'm telling you, thank me later. Thank me in the comments when you go to SoundCloud. Thank me in the comments. Just put a thumbs up. Don't say nothing because then, you know, it'll be like Hitch and you can't snitch on yourself. You know what I mean? But one of his famous encounters with the police was when he used to dress in his dapper suits and stuff, and he was smoking a cigarette outside of the venue that he was about to perform in, and the cops stopped him. And back in the days, they didn't shoot you immediately all the time. They just like to hit you. So they clubbed him up. And so he was going through stuff like that. So when he went on stage, he didn't want it to be about that. In fact, if you know Miles Davis, and I'm not ruining everything about the book because I could if I wanted to, but Miles Davis didn't even like names for his songs. You know, because he wanted you to make your own, have your own thoughts about what that song meant to you. So he wasn't even, that's why, you know, a lot of jazz artists, they don't like lyrics on certain songs. They won't have vocals in certain songs and stuff, you know. That's why you had to be a really dope vocalist. You had to be on some Ella, you know, Ella, Billy, you know, Sarah Vaughan type stuff, because they was like, nah, you're not fucking up my track with this shit, you know. You're not gonna just do, you know, R&B shit, you know what I mean, on my shit, you know? So I'm saying all that to say this, right? When I'm thinking about being a hip-hop writer, it wasn't really the hip-hop writers. Once I saw Bones Malone be creative, then I was like, but how do I embed myself? How do I get deeper as like a writer? Because Bones Malone didn't embed his creativity into the chronicling of the actual insight of the song. In other words, the work that was on the music, solely on the music, did not have creativity embedded into it. So my thought was like, what if we could embed creativity into the actual pieces about other music? And then therein lies that whole idea of art and art, you know, and science on music, you know what I mean? And so, like, if you're reading, I just put up a piece. One of my recent pieces is a piece on Common. His group is August Green, and I wrote about their album. And then people was probably like, yo, Sweeney, this is the soft shit. It's been soft for months. I'm not fucking with it, right? It's actually a really dope album. But when I wrote about it, I usually use a poetic, and I call it art on art because I'm trying to deliberately put some art in there, and I'll throw a poem in there and stuff. But even so, embedded into the actual body of the piece, I'm writing and using creative devices and stuff, you know what I mean? So I'm just throwing this out there. If you could catch it, though, I actually interpolated a Tupac song in describing something about Common. They got nothing to do with nothing. I just felt like doing that, you know what I mean? You know? So this is the kind of things, you know, because we could fuck with it. We could fuck with anything, you know? Like, in this day and time, if somebody goes, I just want to know if the album's good and stuff like that, go Spotify this shit. You know, we're here for the details of the music, the reasons why, the reasons that you normally wouldn't come up with. So the hip hop journalist is really supposed to be someone that's researching all day, a liner note junkie. Not like when I remember I was at one of these magazines and they did their best of, and I brought my spindle, and I brought my spindle of music, and I had 100 CDs on a spindle, and I said, okay, best of the year, let's go through it though. And they just looked at me like, yo, we're really gonna listen to all this shit, you know what I mean? So it really didn't work out, you know what I mean? But and there is a book, I think it's Brian Coleman, he has a book called Liner Note Junkies. That's how the journalist of music is supposed to be, you know what I mean? In all ways, in all happenstances, you know what I mean? Not just be consistent sellers of whatever is out and shit, you know what I mean? So, with that said, this is what art on art and science on music is, right? I think on the next show, I'm gonna go in a little detail about my low life origins too, because these are, it's not completely unique, but my low life origins and how I'm part of that organization though definitely sets a unique precedent. You know what I mean? It's definitely different than the average though. You know what I mean? And as a side note, just to put it in perspective and have y'all tune in, I'm not known for stealing clothes. I'm known for stealing books and music. You know what I mean? So, you know, there's different reasons why people become part of the low lives and why we're knighted like that. You know what I mean? And then other people that have bought every fucking thing on eBay, you know, they don't, they got the Indian 94 sweater on eBay for $606,000 of shit. But they're not a low life, you know what I mean? They just got a lot of shit, you know what I mean? They got all the animals that low released and shit, but they're not low life. So there's differences to this and there's expanded movement. So I'm gonna go through that, and I'm gonna have guests that are low lives and all that detail, including the low that gave me my L's, right? The God Rock Kim Supreme Shabazz, aka Rudy Lowe, you know, and we're gonna chop it up again because we always have to build with him and refresh the sequence and the moves of the movement. But we're talking about art and art, right? And I wanted to read something that I had fun writing though, and I'm gonna have a little fun here because, and it was for an album that was rugged. So I was thinking about my martial arts training. So I said, fuck it. I wrote a whole story and I just chopped it up in the piece, so you don't know how long the story is. So I don't have a name for it. When I like it, when I pull it out, I don't have a name for it. So I just call it's a kung fu story, right? And it goes like this, right? The room is old, Seagung, thinking as my master teacher strides along with his deceptive limp and cunning smirk. The wear and tear of once new things here, along used pieces there, all easily assimilating these newest things we bring. There are acres of floor that remind me of moves once mirror neuroned wrong until their steps were forgotten. Kicks are no more the rooted step. Swerve hip and coiled knee into the midsection towards an extended out and clean hard foot, straight and sturdy. It's now just my walking limb that becomes a wild whip that talks back to diggers and could treat every cracker like the trump they are. That floor got the swirls of sweeps, gutted holes of knives, swords thrusted and deflected, and the depressions from rooted stances, butterfly kicks, and all types of inventions we jump into. 3 treasures, Seagung, master teacher, I still cling to. So the room when I walk in smells like a battlefield of beats, incense, and the newest ideas of freedom. So as I encircled powerfully into my rattan ring, Seagung told me, we were once compassionate to the drum with a simpleness for the basic garment of truth. We lived the way so the young had the way. We could then lead by not leading. 3 treasures that were as attainable as the breath now seemed like holding handfuls of water. I understood and replied, teacher, we won't let ourselves blackwash and then whitewash anymore to wipe away our supremacy for tiny tutelage that'll never uplift at any midnight hour. We won't let aging babies lift their skirts in defeat and remove shirts to receive white lashes. The militants won't recruit emotions to lead anymore, and we will not curtsy to the murderers and cry for the sales on our souls. Seagung then declared, then it's time to fight. It's time to learn the ways of the original, the techniques that invade the lost and ravage the comfort of acceptance, the sirens to building. Unsheath your sword, your sacred word, Sunez. Yes, Sifu, and I fought. Teacher, one mind rages, killing many. The symphony of too many mind in me slaughtered. Facts and finales funnel letterage in flowing tree sap. Timing storied in advance, smooth textures as they bleed precise and sharper than 40 acres filled with vandana seeds. Hold my mule and enjoy a slow ride back to the Caucasus. See the jewels? I got means, teams, manifestos, ghettos, plans, clans, blogs, monologues, writtens with Whitaker, the abbot. You fucking name it. See what we build through? Omi tofu. That little call to battle, little call to arms was a piece I wrote and embedded in it was off the review of Don Pacino's 2016 album, Gemini Mind. Don Pacino versus PR Terrorist, though. For some reason, I just wanted to throw that in there, like the two minds, and then I threw in this idea of me talking to my Seagung. Because the Seagung, the way I was writing it, he's not there all the time. But you have conversations with him. You move and you practice and you train and you see what he might say. You think of what he said to you and you see what he might have said. And so it just came out like that. I had a lot of fun with that one. But, you know, we have some deeper concepts here, right? And as we go along, we have a lot of features, right? And one of the things I wanted to get into was a build that I was having. You know, I had this idea, right, of July 4th, and everybody was celebrating July 4th. You know, that's when white people celebrated their independence, though, and started to really feel comfortable with our slaves, right? And we celebrate that now. We do fireworks of all kinds and stuff like that. And it doesn't bother me because that's what people do, right? It bothers me the type of people that do it. The ones that you would expect more. So I had shared a tweet. I retweeted a Wu-Tang Clan tweet that had the picture of the Wu-Tang in symbol on the American flag, right? And it was like Happy July 4th, and I was like, wow, that shit doesn't even make fucking sense here. You know what I mean? And I had said, when a countercultural musical movement is branded and Americanized for the consumption of gentrifiers, and a hashtag we white and westernized clan, you know? And my issue was this, right? And I clarified it because some people will see me with my gear and they'll see, like, you know, because sometimes if you know me, this is back in the day before I was in low life. I used to have like clothes, all my clothes that had the American flag. If they were polo, I would deface them. I defaced the American flag. So I had this dope, what was it? Windbreaker pants polo with the stripe down, but it had the tiny American flag. So I didn't give a fuck, and I took the scissor and I cut the flag off, and I just left it in a hole. This is how militant I was about this shit, you know? So it was totally unsellable and shit like that, but I would do shit like this. And if you ever see me, I've got polo shirts with the American flag on it that I've clearly overpatched. That's why I say I'm the low life with the home sewn garment. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna sew over shit. If you see my low shit and I got butterfly sword patches, that shit, Ralph don't know about no butterfly swords. You know what I mean? But all I'm saying though is that they started to sell patches and shit. Right? And I was doing patches way longer. And mind you, that's a Bronx tradition. When I lived up in Pelon, and I started to wear like army jackets when I was up in Pelon. When I lived in Pelon, and I was wearing my army jacket, I was like, yo, my shit was bare. And I was like, yo, we're supposed to put mad shit on it. So I started to get patches like Puerto Rican flag, this and that, everything on it. You know what I mean? Because that's the way it was, right? That's an old Bronx culture. You know what I mean? from the gangs, you know, always adorning all of their symbols on their jacket and shit like that, on their jean jackets, you know what I mean? The vest that they was rocking. But yo, it wasn't about the Wu symbol being on the American flag, right? Because I said this. I said my low life logo that I have a pin that I wear often, and it's an American flag pin, except the states, the stars where the states are, is the low life, the two L's, right? The love and loyalty L's. And I also have one of the classic Wu wear vests, and it's got the American flag, the Wu American flag on it. So it wasn't about that. Basically, I see it as our righteous ethos taking over the land that we at. Our ideas taking over this place that we're at. And but when the Wu flag is then pitched and sold with a Happy July 4th saying on it, that's not how I see it. That's not how I use it, and I disagree with that. You know what I mean? The way that the Wu has the logo on beach balls, seriously, on a fucking beach ball, you know what I mean? It shows you that what's being sold is not those who love the deeper essence of the music and who are spending like their lifetime enjoying it, enjoying the slang, enjoying the details of what RZA's music gave, but really the cult status of it. Like, this is some different shit, you know what I mean? Like, you know, one thing I've always looked for when I was single, I used to always be attracted to women that had like a t-shirt or some shit. Like, oh shit, they got some knowledge. Like, chicks would have like a Billie Holiday shirt, and I'm like, oh shit, they know about Billie Holiday. You know what I mean? I could go kick it to them and shit like that, because, you know, I'm a music nut, you know? Now, the geekdom that I have for music and shit, it's going to be game, you know what I mean? Just like, yo, when you see a chick reading As a Man Thinketh or some Asian text, I'm like, yo, I do martial arts. I'm going to kick it to her. See that double entendre there? I'm going to kick it, right? So I go, no, this would often happen. I said, oh, I never heard any Billie Holiday records. I just liked the way she was and stuff. What do you mean you don't like the way she was? You know what I mean? You could YouTube a song like immediately, like YouTube clips of her singing and shit. You know what I mean? So, it's like we got a generation like that. Yeah, yo, if you're gonna wear a Run DMC shirt, like, listen to one song, at least fucking Peter Piper before you leave the door and shit. You know what I mean? Like, know one joint. You know what I mean? Like, know the names of the trio. You know what I mean? Maybe, you know, it'd be nice if you knew Jam Master Jay was dead. You know, you don't have to know that Reverend Run is a fucking reverend. You know what I mean? But at least know that one of them is gone, returned to the essence, and that they was, you know, three guys. You know what I mean? You don't have to know about Russell Simmons and the history of Def Jam and shit, right? Or, you know, at least save it on a playlist somewhere in the Spotify that you got. You know what I mean? But it led me to something else, though. A little bit of our deepest build today, right? Not our most important, probably, but I had said this, right? And it was talk about July 4th, and this was a sentiment that some people have and stuff about protesting, and I kept seeing that protesting was the way to be American and shit like that. And I was like, nigga, since when? You know, because I remember my first protest, like long distance walk protest, was Anthony Baez. When Anthony Baez was choked down in Pilon for throwing a football and had bad aim. That's all the kid had, bad aim. So much so that his mom led such a rebellion in this that she was she actually went into politics. I'm not sure how far she went into politics, right? But these are the days where you could do this, though. Like, you'd be in the march and shit, and you would see Fat Joe there. Like, I remember when I marched there, I remember bumping into Fat Joe, and I was like, hey, Fat Joe, how come you're not in the front? And he was like, I'm just here to be here. Not trying to get no shine or nothing like that. So, you know, before we sometimes vomit all the way up on these, you know, pop songs that we hear, these guys really, some of them really came up doing stuff that was quite noteworthy and stuff, you know? So that's why we miss those days, you know? Like, people don't know those little bits of history. But when it comes to all that, right? The idea of protest, right? I had said this, right? I want to find that original tweet that I said. I said something about it. Yeah. I said if protest is truly patriotic, this is the tweet. If protest is truly patriotic and American, I ain't doing it. A countercultural life means knowing what they embrace, allow has been assimilated to ruin you. So I said create and build in unseen manners, exactly unlike protest, a very observable and thus defeatable measure, and can't be the number one option. But I had some students. I got some students, and one brother, I won't mention his name, but he's a great student. He's out in Texas, right? And by the way, I'm a Mets fan, though, so there's no one to root for, so I root for his team out in Houston, right? Because it's not, there's nothing left to see. There's nothing left to see. And because, it's like, you ever play ball with a nigga that can't shoot? And he shoots retarded, and after a while you play a couple of games, and you're shooting fucked up. All your shit is sailing to the left, and you're like, I practiced all morning, and now my shot is fucked up. Because you've been playing with this nigga and watching him take fadeaways and shit, and now you've lost all your curriness. Your curriness is gone, right? So this is the same thing, you know what I mean? Like, if I keep watching the Mets, though, I'm gonna start writing fucked up shit. I'm gonna start writing shitty. I love the Mets, but I can't do that. That shit fucks up your game and shit. I start losing and shit. And then if I watch the Yankees, which I hate, they're winning, so then I'm gonna hate winning, and I'm gonna start losing in real life. So I picked somebody else, right? And Jose Altuve, that's my favorite player. But anyway, my brother out there in Texas, he actually does. He's heavy in the protest. He's heavy in rallies. He's always building. And here's one of the things that I said to him, though, because he was saying, like, because my tweet was incomplete, and I wanted him to see that when you protest, like a lot of people, they go, I'm not protesting. I'm not doing shit. I'm like, you haven't done shit. You haven't stepped out and disagreed with anybody, though. You haven't even disagreed with your boss on where to put the fries at. You know what I mean? You haven't disagreed on your boss on how many pickles to put in the burger. You know what I'm saying? So when we look at protests, it shouldn't be the first option. But if you're a young brother and you're trying to be involved in the community, that's where you get your stripes. You go out there and you find a cause, though, and you get a pulse of the people. So I said this to him. I said, I see protest as valid, but when you aren't just protesting, you teach and bring a deeper issue that could be worked on alone, as in the knowledge of self or anything else, right? That you see that the community could use and needs. Also, there's protesting, and then there's also building and educating the people under the guise of protesting. You see, like I said, a lot of niggas is about protest as anti-protesters, but they haven't done anything. They're amateurs in all of the fields of militancy. So like they have no stripes. So it's like they got lots of things to say against it, but they haven't been a private in any battlefield, So sometimes, like, if you want to be a community leader, well, you got to step in there. People, I was thinking about Obama, right? Obama used to have speeches where he says shit that I was like, this devil right here. He's saying some shit that is 100% not right and exact. But then I was like, he was mad charismatic, though. Like, it was sweet. The sweet talk. The silver tongue. You know how you get the silver tongue? Because you're around black folk, brown folk, and you understand what makes them groove. You know what I'm saying? What makes them groove, Like, it's like a soul singer, everybody get their certain groove, like Aretha's notes, or Linda Jones had this certain groove about her, like this certain note that she would hit. Gladys Knight get this certain soft tone that she hits, Everybody got their groove, and when you find it with the people, when you're around the people, you figure the groove out. And when you figure the groove out, then now you could say all types of shit, though. Yes, the concentration camps are on the corner of 110th Street, but they're only for people that have this kind of clothing on, though. So don't worry, you have polo clothes on. It's really just for USPA and Beverly Hills Polo Club wearers, though. Those people that wear those kind of clothes. I said, nah, but I saw some Snow Beach in there and shit. Some Snow Beach niggas was in the concentration camp and shit. No, I don't think that's what you saw, Here's what you saw. You saw a lot of brightness, though, because there's a lot of stuff to work on. And sometimes when things are so incredible, the light shines in a certain way. And then we have to move it, and it's a lot of good people helping a lot of people in distress. So okay, yeah, no, I understand that. You know what I mean? I'm gonna keep it right, okay. And then here we go. Now we got these concentration camps and shit. You know what I mean? That silver tongue. You know, you learn the silver tongue when you with the people. You know what I mean? Who learns how to pick up women though, not talking to them? Right? You got to take a lot of shots though. They goes, oh, Kobe, he took too many shots. He's the all-time leader in missed shots. But boy, he made a lot of shots though. You know what I'm saying? If those shots would power you, boy, look at his arm. That shit broke, right? The shoulder, it broke. They say you've torn everything in it though. You know, you ever see that documentary when they showed Kobe and he had all the injuries? They blasted him, like you could see the upset in his face. But when they told him about the shoulder injury, like, yo, it's all the shooting you did. He was like, yeah, I put in that work though. I took them shots though. Like, doesn't that feel good? Like you took them shots. Like that shit doesn't work anymore. He won't be retired and go, I feel like I had another like 2,000 shots in me. I could have played some 6-man. Nah. It has no rotator cuff, you know? When I'm on the bus, if I have to hold on to something, I use my left hand. You know what I'm saying? I reach for things in the cupboard with my left hand, you know? You went all out. And, you know, I say this to say that, like, the way you get your stripes, though, is by doing things with the community. So you gotta pay those dues, you know what I'm saying? Don't tell me when it's time to build that you don't like politicians, though. Have you been with one of them? When I say shit about them, I was with them. And I was doing community work, and I was like, wow. You know, like, when I say stuff about record labels, I was at record labels, and they had the album, and then the white man comes in. I was like, where'd this white man come from? And he sat down. It was like a Boondocks cartoon, pre-Boondocks. And he sat down, and he said, so, is this what the children are feeling? It was like he had the Beverly Hills Cop voice when Eddie Murphy does they wreck the buffet voice, you know what I mean? And he said, I'm not sure if this is going to be really successful here. Are you sure it's going to work? And I was like, why are we asking this fuck about it, though? You know what I mean? I was like, this was Jizz's lyric on Protect Your Neck, you know what I mean? Like, this was the guy playing the electric guitar, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, nothing to do with hip-hop. And it was common because these were the investors, you know what I mean? So you got to be in touch with the people. You know, it's part of the stripes. You know, people look at protesting and we dismiss it because we're seeing a lot of great artists. I'm going to say this for real. We have a lot of great artists that have actually gone past that. They've already gone past that level. So when they diss it, they're dissing it from a level of those who've tried it, though. So they want you to try other covert measures if you're going to skip and stuff. So like, yo, voting, protesting, I'm not with any of that shit. But if you're trying to learn your way, if you're 16, 17, go sign up. See what this world is about. See what it looks like inside. When you finally get to vote in one of those things. See what those machines look like. You know what I'm saying? Shit, you might be turned away on some Trumpian legislation. And you might get a rude awakening about how important shit is. You know what I'm saying? Because then, you know, in this world, you're going to look dumb when you're shocked about stuff. Well, you know, one thing I loved about hip-hop and people like my hero, like Guru, is that they had you ready for shit. You know what I'm saying? When I heard Daily Operations Conspiracy, I was like, oh, yeah. And the SAT, you know, is not built for the lower class. So why even try to pass? So I was like, when I took the SATs as a senior, I was like, man, fuck it. You know what I mean? I was like, fuck it, man. It don't matter, though. You heard what Guru said? Check, click, click, click. I was just like, whatever. You know what I mean? I didn't tell my old earth about, you know, my mom, about anything, my insight about the SAT. You know what I mean? But I wasn't sweating it, though. You know what I'm saying? So when they had European jargon or upper class words of stuff that we can't even afford to buy, then I was not worried about it. But we don't have music on a large scale, on a popular scale that does that for us. If you hear great music, you've already been a digger. So a lot of the advice that you would get as an ignorant man, you probably were not as ignorant when you get to the great music that I might talk about. So it's a different era. the music listener that listens to the best hip hop is already a little bit extra intelligent by the time he gets to good music, you know? So, this is how you build your courage, you know what I mean? Somebody says, you're not being a protester, I'm gonna speak and ask the white man stuff. No, we shouldn't be about that. We shouldn't be asking other people about stuff. But I'll tell you something, though. We shouldn't be, you know, if you have that service, it's going to build your speaking skills. It's going to give you courage and develop your ability to put things into words, to put your desires into words. So all of these things are important, though, you know. And I'll leave it at that, though, you know. So now, if you guys, if I get snitches, if people are like, yo, Sneeze is not talking about the popular rappers and he's always saying this and shit, and you want to protest this show, now you fucking know how to protest this show. And you could get your stripes by protesting my fucking show. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I won't give you that story now. But when I used to write my column, Sunset Style, in Baruch College, the ticker, I used to curse up a storm in there. I used to curse all over it. It was like, fuck, shit, everything. This is how I developed my writing style. You didn't do that in 94 in print, in a college paper. And there were organizations, though, that were like, oh, this guy's talking all this stuff, and it's race. They were doing the reverse racist stuff on me, and they were like, we want him banned because he curses and stuff. I even had the Italian Society get at me, you know, and all I did was read it like a cliche Italian, though. I was like, you know what I mean? And these things really happen and stuff like that. So whether you're protesting or not, people will protest you for telling the truth. So you got to know all these parameters and shit, you know what I mean? But you all love S.STREET Media, though, so stop bullshitting, though, you know? But, yo, on a lighter note, I have a list of loose thoughts, you know? And I went back to doing DJ Toshi's Classic Stone Radio, and I threw some of these loose thoughts out there, and I want to throw them again out for the listeners here, right? But there's a new one, though, right? I completed the Planet of the Apes trilogy movie, right? And I completed it just for one thing, to honor Sean P. Just like, yo, he was like, ape don't kill ape. I have to watch all the movies, though, just to see how it works out, though. You know what I mean? Like, how the revolution goes and shit. It was actually a decent movie, the last one. It was worth watching them to see the last one, right? And it made me reminisce over Sean P's use of that imagery, you know, the ape don't kill ape. And I talked about it in the last review I wrote about his posthumous work, you know, the one that Bernadette, you know, executive produced brilliantly. And what was so clever about Sean P is that he had a way of embracing the stereotype and then giving it a worth, you know? So like the ape don't kill ape. He's like, yo, you see us as apes. And yet I'm going to embrace that and say we don't kill each other, though. You could call us animals, you call it, but we're a special type of fucking animal. And we don't kill each other, we support each other, though. But now he cipher monkey ciphers. Y'all another story, though. You know what I mean? P. Fucking P. You better go on genius.com and get some explanations for that shit. You know what I mean? All right? But I just loved how the theme was everlasting and stuff. You know what I mean? Because when Woody Harrelson's character explains how the apes are bigger, stronger, and he kept being condescendingly but also genuinely surprised at how cunning and intelligent and insight, you know, the apes were. And that's why he had to stop them. They try to mask it in like a Jewish metaphor and the Nazis but that was us people. That was us, you know what I mean? And as we got camps, though, with black and brown immigrants and shit, that's our people, you know what I mean? That's our people. And I saw the metaphor, and I love what Sean P did that, man. Remembered Imperfection, Sean Price. Watch that trilogy, you know, just to reminisce on that, you know what I mean? Like, it really brings it home, though, because I don't think I would enjoy the movie as much if P didn't use it as a deeper theme or embrace the theme that it was insinuating but not implying. Because the original Planet of the Apes, that's some white man shit. Like, oh, Jesus, I went into the future and now it's, look at this, and now niggers are everywhere. Oh, my goodness, we're in the same world and it's fucked up. Fuck that movie and that fucking trilogy or the set of movies they made about the apes. You know what I mean? This is the one that they had to fix that one, though, you know? They had to fix it, and they did, you know? But, yo, one of my questions that I was asking him with DJ Toshi show was, Rock Marciano started a trend though of charging magnificent prices for the digital download. You know what I'm saying? And one of those artists that have really taken that to the next level is the Gods, and all the brothers in Tragic Allies and that whole clique out in Massachusetts and stuff, right? And these guys are dope MCs. They're really strong MCs, and they're led by S.STREET, and a lot of other Al Divino, right? A lot of people. And here's a list of the EPs that they have released. They've released a litany of EPs on their Bandcamp, and they don't let you stream it. They might stream one or two cuts, but that's it. And they were doing the 7-track EP is like gonna be like an LP for us before Kanye did that shit. So just so you think that Kanye's a fucking pioneer, guess again, though. You know, he's rocking old ideas and shit. You know what I mean? But look at this. Al Divino with S.STREET, Rafaga Facil, right? Al Divino with S.STREET, Maleficus, Artibus. I don't even know what that means. I got to do my research, right? It's just all good records. Al Divino, Monumentality. Al Divino, S.STREET, Abracadabra, Alakazam. That's the name of it. Let's see. Al Divino and Sauce Heist, Bengal Bone Marrow. You got to listen to the albums just to figure out why they even named the shit that, right? S.STREET and Crucial the Guillotine. Crucial the Guillotine is actually from Noble City's clique, the Noble City crew. And they're from, like, brothers from Canada and brothers from, like, upstate and shit. Dope crew. Sagnif, Nori, all those guys. And as time goes on, I want to have them as guests. And S.STREET did that album with Crucial the Guillotine on the beats called Novela. And then this is the kicker. The latest one is S.STREET with Al Divino called Nicola. These albums were running $36, $45. Then it was $100. These are the 7-8 song albums. And then this one was $123. Like, shit, he didn't even keep it straight 120. Like, he didn't even keep it straight 120, right? He went $123. You cannot stream it, right? And it's $123. And I was like, first of all, right? From somebody that's coming from an era where I was robbing, stealing, borrowing, dubbing, buying and then returning, collecting anybody's old CDs and bringing them to Discorama and then getting a bunch of money back and probably giving it back to fucking Discorama again, buying the shit back with more records, right? And by the way, Discorama used to have a whole bunch of collection of like tapes and shit. You could take off the label and put different ones. I had a whole bunch of like $2 ones, and I would be there all day sticking new labels on it. We had big ass pants so CDs could fit in your back. I could not steal vinyl. If you guys know my stature, I think I'm pretty stocky for my height. But a vinyl is gonna look like I'm like Iron Man. I'll be like Iron Man. I'll be like a big chest box. So I couldn't steal vinyl. But oh man, cassettes all day. You know what I mean? Like brothers would have that long thumb so they could, you know, crack that Philly. I had that long thumb for the CD case and for the cassette, because if you slice it down the middle, take all the stuff out, and then I got caught at H&M because I was selfish though. I wanted the liner notes. You know what I'm saying? So I fumbled a little bit. You know what I mean? And I just took my L though. You know what I mean? You know what's funny? When I finally got caught, I had to go home with a record. You know what was the record I bought? It took years to catch me. 1998. I left that and I was so pissed off about it. And I was embarrassed too, because I was beginning to learn the knowledge of self, and I had math alphabet and 1 to 10 on me. I had some of the lessons on me. And the guy was like, "Oh, so you're the God, and you're filthy, just like these gang members that are with this God stuff." And I was so embarrassed that I was misrepresenting something I was just got into, you know? Like I was doing them dirty, and I didn't even learn everything I could learn from them. But I had to leave home with something. So I went to, oh man, I'm forgetting the place it was. But it was on, I forget where it was, man. You know those no-name stores that they just have racks and shit? Right? That they were on decal and shit, and they just have like a whole bunch of shit. Kung Fu movies here, and you go in the back and they have more shit. And I bought the 1998 album by The Coup, which is Boots Riley, who has a movie out now. Sorry to bother you, I haven't seen it yet. Real militant MC, but this is to be my favorite album of his. It's called Steal This Album. So I'm going through there, and it says steal this album, and I got just caught for stealing albums. So I was like, I have to buy this album. I have to buy this album because it's just destiny. You know what I mean? It says steal this album, so I went and bought it and stuff, and it was incredible. It had the lyrics in it too. If you're front on West Coast music, try Steal This Album by The Coup. That's COUP, right? I think Boots from The Coup is one of the great lyricists, and people don't really give him credit though, man. He had a song back in the day where they did the voices of rich folk, and one of the voices was actually Donald Trump. So they was dissing Donald Trump before, just when he was a piece of shit, rich fuck. You know what I mean? And he was a lot of people don't know, when he in the 80s, he was a joke. Nobody respected him though. He was like George Bush Jr. He was in that league, right? And so I'm saying, like, an album is $123. Back in the day, I would have been like, yo, that's 11 albums. But if the tax is too high, that's gonna be a little bit more. But if I get them all cassette and I get one that's a little bit cheaper, maybe a cassette single instead of that last album, I got this. You know what I mean? And this is how I roam the city. I used to go to like 10 different stores throughout Medina, Brooklyn, Manhattan, everywhere. Like, I was a cheap fuck. I didn't in Fat Beats. I didn't buy shit from Fat Beats. They charge full price, and I was like, these are real hip hop heads, though. They're real hip hop heads. You know what I'm saying? DJ Clips. You're not gonna steal from DJ Clips. That's disrespectful. You know what I mean? So I used to be like, okay, that's what exists. Let me see if I find it somewhere else. I never bought shit from Fat Beats. You know what I mean? Because they put full price on this shit. You know what I mean? And I was still mad. I was like, yo, this is my culture. Why do I have to even pay for that? You know what I mean? And I was addicted. I still am. I have to hear everything. I want to hear everything. So when I see a brother charging $120, I'm like, I don't know. I want you to hear your opinions on this shit, though. But we only got a little bit of time left, right? And there's so much more to say. We got, I didn't even, go through some of the other stuff, but there's a lot of albums to go through, and I'm going to skip some of them because I want to go through one album that's such a piece of shit album that I want to talk about it. You know what I mean? So we can have some fun with it. But, yo, I want to skip immediately because there's a lot of other stuff, right? I want to get into a segment called the Colorism Corner. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's one of the issues that we have as black, brown people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even mentioning the yellow original people because brothers ain't ready to build with them, Like, they see all these engineers and mathematicians. They must have it all good. You know what I mean? And when it comes to black and brown folk in the hip hop culture, everywhere else, I think about this immediately, right? There's a line that Guru had. He says, and I'm talking about conspiracy again. He says, so you say I ain't doing that corny stuff, but to tell you that your chart positions will go up. Did you know that the majority of people that make music today that is hardcore have never had the opportunity to sell out? Did you know that most of the people that you see sell out and cross over, right, out there, they're actually pre-selling out? You know what I mean? They're like, so that way when you tell them, like, yo, that says sellout music, and they go, you hear that argument, he goes, isn't that sellout music? That's what they were doing the whole time. So he was a piece of shit before he ever got noticed, though. You know what I mean? He was a corn and a coon before we ever laid eyes on him, though. They do a pre-sellout. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of the packaging and stuff. People know how to package themselves. And that's where disgusting terms like branding yourself. You know what I mean? No, I brand myself. That's what I'm doing. I'm branding myself. You know what I'm saying? You know what I feel like doing? I feel like carrying like a hot branding iron, though. You know what I'm saying? Like give me like the Cleveland Indians symbol. Give me that symbol, the Cleveland Indians mascot symbol. And every time some nigga goes up to me, yo, Soonies, you don't even know you cover that stuff, but I'm branding myself, so I don't really need what you dealing with and everything like that. And I'd be like, yo, check out my book bag. I got this shit hot. I got this hot shit for you. And I take this Cleveland Indians logo and I brand it right into your skin. You know what I'm saying? And if you're wearing USPA, it goes right through the shirt. If you're wearing polo, you open that shit up. You know, you want to open polo, and you got the polo shirt. Just try to pull down the neck a little bit. You know what I mean? But it's going through the USPA. That's different fabric. You know what I mean? Different fabric. So it goes right through. You know what I mean? But yo, when I'm saying this kind of stuff is that I'm seeing stuff by people that is appalling though. You know, when we see our people have a culture that we was given to us, these earlier generations of us, they gave us a culture. Whether they did it just partying, it developed into a culture where we could say so much deep shit, and we throw it away. We throw it away, and the way that we throw it away is we disrespect the deeper connections that we might have with it. You know, I was on a thing, and somebody we were it was an argument about the term moreno and the use of the word moreno, which means black in Spanish. And it's a term that has a legacy in music, in being used in music, and it has a legacy being used in different genres by Puerto Ricans and others. And I'll keep it to Puerto Ricans because these are the ones that made this genre here in the city, along with African Americans, along with the English Caribbean, which is mainly Jamaica. You know, if I had to pigeonhole it, African American, Jamaican, Puerto Rican. Like if we had to pigeonhole it and give it a holy trinity of ethnicity, we would do that. It's not inclusive of that. It's the black diaspora. But if we had to do that little trilogy thing, right? And so, you know, my man was like on some saluting 6ix9ine. So I already knew there was a problem though. And the God that put me on to talking to this, I was like, ah, fuck, I got to talk to a nigga like 6ix9ine. There's a way to go with your life. You know what I mean? Right? Because, you know, like, you've never seen a bunch of niggas jumping up like fucking savages, though. You've never seen that. So he must be saluted for doing this. You know, after we seen Joel Osteen in church with hundreds of niggas. We seen preachers that don't teach shit. We seen Creflo Dollar hustle niggas. Right? We saw those preachers, though, where they had to slap the ass and it was down the line slapping the ass, right? We saw all types of stuff. So you're surprised that there could be thousands of coons, thousands of the unknowing out in the fields, jumping in down to the most mundane, monotone, drone sounds. How could you be surprised? How could you salute that? You know why? Because you have a lust for that. That's my psychoanalysis of the day. You lust for that yourself. And you see what that tells me, though, is that when there's a slip to sell out, when you get that slip to sell out, you're cashing that chip in. But one of the chips that people are cashing in first is that Curtis Mayfield impression song. If you could choose a color, which one would you really choose? Would it be the one that you got? When a Puerto Rican says moreno, here's the rule. When a Puerto Rican says moreno in talking, he was referring to another black. He might be referring to a cousin or something like that. If he's talking about other Puerto Ricans, it just could be identification. The majority of the time, he says moreno referring to a black American. Someone that doesn't necessarily know Spanish or know the intricacies of the way Puerto Ricans do shit, right? That's some devilish shit. You're talking down to him. If you go, I say moreno to my morenos in front of them, though, then you know what, though? Pat him on the head when you do it like a puppy, though. This is my moreno, though. This is what he could do. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. Nobody used the word like that. You know why? You know why Pun used the term like that when Pun and Joe did it, when they did Boricua Morena? Because it rhymed. And because they could change the context of it because they're fucking Pun. And that's, I don't think people understand. Why do you think the treatment had to be like that, where the clubs of the African American club and the Puerto Rican club had to switch and show the unity? It had to deliberately show that because moreno isn't used in that context. It's deliberately a segregative term. When you use it in the music, some of the most famous salsa songs, and that's the first urban genre of New York City, right? Like Sonora Ponceña from Ponce, right, where my lineage is from, Puerto Rico, half of it. They have one of their guys, because they had got a lot of singers. He had a song called Moreno Soy, I am Moreno, right? And he was singing how he was that, and he was affirming that he was black, and he was proud of all this, and right? And you know why he made that song like that? Because he was embracing it. What people don't understand, though, is that Puerto Ricans from the 70s on have a lot of terms that they changed in their music and otherwise that normally weren't embraced, right? Some of them haven't been embraced. If you call a brother, a black American brother, and you call him Cocola, that's a diss in any type of language. If you call him Moreno, you're being slick with this shit because it means black straight up, but it doesn't intone that. You know? It really means that black. You know, like when you see white people go, those blacks, it has that prefix in front of it. You know? It has that subtext. But songs like Moreno Soy was affirmative, they were embracing, and they were also revolutionary. Another term example, right? When we study the term Jibaro, which means a hick, which is referred to and embraced as the farmer of Puerto Rico, a lot of light-skinned Puerto Ricans always go, I'm Jibaro, because they don't want to say they're Afro-Arawak, which they really are. The term Jibaro's etymology, the history of its word, is actually an African tribe. I'm sorry to tell you. So what happens is that these words get used and changed. So when Hector Lavoe, my goat, was singing in his 70s and being very, very militant because he was using Jibaro-styled language, intonations and stuff, which are a lot of Moorish chants. When you hear a salsa singer go, lelo lai, lelo lay, that's a Moorish chant. And when they were doing that, that was very frowned upon. And so he was basically saying that he was Jibaro, Taino y Che. Jibaro, whatever you say is the light skin, the Taino, whatever you say is the Arak, and the Che, whatever you say is the black. And that was a revolutionary change. In hip-hop music, there are no other songs that use the word Moreno. And I'm talking about like songs sold to by English-speaking MCs in the market. They don't use that term very often. If they do, it's usually a homage to what Pun was doing because it was the giant single, you know? And let me tell you something. What we're talking about here in this colorism corner, though, is what I hate, is the fucking hidden dart. Hidden darts are for fucking Ghostface Killer on an album. You know, I'll give you a hidden dart, though, right? Because I'm Boricua and all those Dominicans, because I'm up in the heights and stuff. So when you Dominicans see me, don't be slick with your shit. Boricuas is a term that we use, that we embrace as Puerto Ricans. It's the highest level of language that we use for ourselves, like the highest word. For most of us with consciousness, it means an Afro-Arawak tradition. And let me tell you something. If you think you got Spanish culture, tell me what's Spanish. The national instrument of Puerto Rico is the cuatro, which is a tiny little guitar with 4 strings. That's why it's called cuatro, 4. Cuba has the 3 strings. Those are Moorish instruments. They were brought by the Moors into Spain and then brought. But because we give it a European sensibility and like, oh, wait, it's not African, we can hide that in there, right? That's part of the Spanish Inquisition, that really clever hiding of stuff. But, brother, there's nothing Spaniard you're doing. There's no Spaniard culture. Unless you kill a baby, unless you rape a whole village, like you go to the next block and you go, look, I live on 48 in Sunset, and I went to 49th Street, and I wiped out the whole block. Like, I just killed everything in it. What do you mean, like, kill? Like, you rap for them and shit like that? No, I killed them. I actually murdered them, right? I said, damn, you's a Spaniard, my nigga. Like, salute my Spaniard nigga. You know what I'm saying? Now you're not Boricua. Like, you're just Spaniard, though. Like, you know what I'm saying? You could be a Spaniard, right? But the hidden dart is that they'll take our term. Like, Dominicans will do this, though, if they're on the hidden dart. And don't do this. If you're Dominican and shit like that, don't do this. That's bitch shit. Don't call us Boris, though. See, by calling us Boris, right, you go Bori and you're cutting the word. That's a dart that a Boricua wouldn't understand because he embraces Boricua, so he thinks you just shorten it like you're using his term of endearment the way you want to say it. And we're cool. But you're saying it like a dart. I had a Dominican saying Bori like 1,000 times to me, and then he was like this, like giving me that face, like, yeah, I got you, nigga, like, you ain't shit, like, yo, and telling me a story about this Boricua that got into some shit, and he had to tell him this, and I was like, I know you're hidden dart, my nigga. So if you're out there, don't be using Moreno as some hidden dart. Be bigger than that. The whole point of hip-hop was to see our different cultures and see that we're actually more united than just drums. We're more united than just that occasionally 1 or 2 of my family members might look like that nigga down the block. You know? Right? Like we always say, ¿Y tu abuela dónde está? Right? Where's, and your grandma, where is she? That's a saying that says, yo, where's your grandma? Because she's black. Where is she? You know what I mean? And it's like, if we don't start embracing that in hip hop and we start to have division, you've got all of these people that are doing hip hop, and they, in the end, when it comes down to being people, like having any kind of genetic connection, they're like, oh my God, I am totally not a nigger. Oh my God, I just like nigger music. I just like 1, 2, check it. Yo, I could go to Disney for that shit. You know, because the Disney Channel, when I watch Disney Channel, they got some kids rapping and shit. Like, they do raps and shit. I'd rather watch that. Like, if I want to see rapping with no kind of culture and love for black folk, of all black folk. You know what I'm saying? And that goes for all of us, though. When African Americans, they throw darts at Jamaicans and say, yo, do you love the breakbeat, nigga? You love the breakbeat? So shut the fuck up. You know? Niggas want to signify and shit. But the toasting was like one of the highest forms of it. You gotta, don't respect the excellence of a people and disrespect the people. You know, it's the most heinous and disgusting thing, especially when you're just trying to deny the possible roots that you have, you know, with that. You know what I mean? And this is the shit that, you know, pisses me off about that, you know? And on a final note, right? I'm going to say this, right? Because I can't just be the all eye seeing. I have to be the all eye hearing. You know, and I had to suffer through Drake's Scorpion album. You know what I mean? The son of a bitch made it a double album. You know, it must have been, because I've never watched it. It must have been like binge watching Degrassi. You know what I'm saying? Because I felt so soft. Like I train. I think I'm a little bit muscular. I think I'm a little bit in shape. I felt like mush, though. Like, I felt soft, though. Like, my gut. Like, I gained body fat percentage by listening to the album, though. Like, you know, my earth was telling me stuff. You know, she was like, oh, you want dinner and stuff like that. I said, whatever you want, honey. It's okay. It's okay, because, like, cooking it's hot in there, and it could be horrible for you. You know what I mean? It's just terrible, though. I felt weak, you know? And, yo, let's keep it real, though, right? Like, I was listening to it, and I didn't know the gimmick of a hip-hop side and an R&B side. The whole shit was, like, the same. You know, it was like one side was milk, and the other side was milk and cookies. This shit's got a little bit more crunch. One of the sides got a little bit more crunch, but it's still like, right? It's still fucked up. I was just like, this is really soft. Like, people listen to this continuously, like the whole thing. And then I see brothers like, I like people like Drake because they show me who the real niggas are. I go through my Facebook and the Twitter, and I see brothers going, yo, Drake came with it, though, with the lyrics and stuff. And I'm like, you have been marked. I have marked you in this list. You know, like, you're in this list, X. Like, my baby daughter, she goes like this, Papi, you get an X, because that's what they get when they get in trouble in pre-K. I said, this nigga gets an X. This nigga gets an X. He said Drake was lyrical. You know what I mean? And it was like, and that was like Sandra's Rose was a basic Primo track. All right, I give you Primo's always dope, but it was basic. And for my listeners, anybody, when you find the instrumental, just throw it on over to me. I'll pay for it. I'll pay it from you. I'll buy it from you. You know what I mean? I just need the instrumental for that. I don't need those verses. And if you ever want to see the limitations of MC, listen to him on a Primo track. You know, Primo, he's slick. He did some slick shit. He said, let me get this money from Drake and show the world that this nigga cannot MC. Because it was the same thing. Imagine if I did the same thing and that was a bang bang and it was like there was no changes. Like, people are like, oh, Primo just gave a solid beat. There were no arrangements. What could he arrange? He rhymes everything with the same amount of syllables, the same tone. It was like a flatline flow. Flatline, like, and just high pitched. And it doesn't sound hard. Like, I'm so blessed that I have my voice. I always thought I wanted like a dope voice, you know, like Sadat X. You know, because Sadat X talks, and after a while, you're like, wait a minute, Sadat, is that a song? Did you just do a song? Or are we just talking here? We just talked to Sadat. You're like, what song is that? You know? But I don't have a voice like that, right? And I was like, I'm glad that I don't have Drake's voice. I'm blessed. You know what I mean? Or as I like to say, I'm Shakur, because Shakur means thankful. I'm Shakur. You know what I mean? I'm Shakur that I don't have that voice like that. You know what I mean? But, you know, for the listener, right? Here are some musical standards that Drake and other favored respect fake Fox rappers destroy, right? Here's the, you know, just like his album, we do MC standards first, then we do R&B standards. MC standards, writing your own shit. Writing your own shit. I wrote this shit. How come he can't write? I wrote this. I wrote my own shit. You know what I mean? This nigga battled somebody that dissed him for not writing his shit, and he never answered about writing the shit. Answer the fucking question. You know, that's why I get mad about this shit. You know what I mean? If, you know, that's why some people are mad. Like, yo, if they said that was your first time seeing a tech on a dresser, answer about the tech on the dresser. Talk about the tech on the dresser. I want to hear you address these points, though. If the white man took your publishing Nas, please address these measures here. And I love Ether, and he won. I'm just saying. But address that. You know, so that's a standard that he lost, though. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not supposed to. You got to write your own shit. MC standard, voice not like a bitch. Right? Because the rappers that we would easily walk up to and give a pound and say, he's my best friend now, like Q-Tip and shit, really approachable in real life, too. Their voices were dope. And their voices had some toughness to it. But his is like, he should have just gave me an R&B side. I just listened to that shit. Anyway, it's not impressive to have more than a drone hovering above monotone flow. If you sound like some kind of cheap airplane hovering above, that's not a flow. There's a difference between Guru's and Prodigy's monotone and the stuff that he's giving, though. It shows limitation. You know what I mean? Actual content. This is related to the voice thing. Actual content beyond life is tough now. Diva-isms. Okay? Did you notice that on that hip-hop side, all he did was complain about how his life is really tough now. But I thought he was rich. He was giving out millions of dollars, though. What's so hard about your life, though, because people tweeted something bad to you? This is a real negative part of our culture, and it's the MCs that are supposed to be tough to teach the kids. Like, don't be having an operation, sisters, because some people tweeted some negative stuff to you. Don't be trying to change the way you act about your personality and what you did in life because you're being bullied. You know what I'm saying? The rappers are supposed to be tougher than that. But then the biggest rappers out there, like Drake, all they do is cry, and it's diva-isms, though. It's diva-isms, though. Like, it's like, oh, no, you know, and it's very similar to, like, the Carters. You know, this is why I call the Carters just the McDucks. You know, remember the whole thing about Scrooge McDuck when I was a kid, I was like, yo, man, imagine I had that much money. Like, yo, we wouldn't be here. We could buy this. We could buy that. And it's ingrained in me when Scrooge McDuck dives into his gold. He fucking dove into the gold. That nigga's so rich that shit didn't hurt. If you dive from that height into some gold, you're dead. But that shit opened up like water. Like he just, you know the sound that they use for like the change? I was like, yo, this is what the Carter's doing though. I got better friends than you. I'm doing this. And then Beyonce does all of the raps, and Jay-Z goes, well, we have this, and then all of the raps and singing Beyonce, It's just McDuck stuff. It's diva-isms on another level. That's all we're getting. So let's see the soul singer standards that he's destroyed, though, that where people are calling this real R&B, right? So we got actual voice beauty. Actual voice beauty. You know, when I say that, contrary to public opinion, Drake cannot sing. He cannot hold notes. He's basically auto-tuned to register at the same consistent register all the time. And just because you can sing along doesn't mean it's singable. You know, just because it's you know the lyrics and you can hum to it doesn't mean that it's really well sung. You know, so it's really the jingle era. It's jingles, is jingles put together in a long player. And you know the thing is that his consistency and tone is not even his though. He needs the auto tunes to secure that, you know. And what's lost in the soul singer standards? Power, power. He has no power, so what happens is you don't see fluctuations. So Aretha, Gladys, Phyllis Hyman, Sassy, Billy, Ella, Whitney, and mind you, I'm using females because, well, you know, he's not. I'm using females because when you compare him, you got to compare him to, you know, you use females. You don't use, when we can't use Gaye, we can't use Marvin Gaye, we can't use Al Green, definitely can't use Barry, you know what I mean? But when a great soul singer sings, they have inflections, they have a waving of the voice that shows a mastery through the lyric, you know? Even people like Mary J. Blige that had limitations, they ended up finding their own inflections that make it their own. Like you could hear her singing, you know, that's Barry, you know what I mean? And instead of just like a robot high and lows and sounded like an automated voicemail or like the 4 train. You know, he reminds me of the 4 train. Like, you know, when they tell you the next stop is 160, you know what I mean? And it's disgusting, you know? But here's what I gotta, and those are just a small list of the standards. And one of the problems though, and to close out with that beef, the problem with this is that too many people are giving Drake they're saying Drake lost the battle with Pusha, right? But he won the war. And the only proof is that he sold more records. What does that mean? You know what I mean? So he sold more records, so he won the war. That was never supposed to be a proof. You know what I'm saying? So his sales excellence is of 2 things. It shows that a crooning rapper is the greatest proof of the loss of R&B soul music to the masses, but it's also during this invisible renaissance, and we should be listening to burgeoning greats. You know, there are a lot of good people out there. You know, and I did it on purpose. Do your research, do your Googles. I mentioned Rhiannon Giddens in my tweets. I'm not mentioning no R&B singer singing on fucking hip-hop shit. Go and dig why I called Rhiannon Giddens, who's classified as a country singer, why she's soul music and what she's doing with the music. That's different, you know? But you don't win a war because you sold more records and shit. Yeah, that's never been the case, though, you know? Because when Pusha decided to battle Drake, he already knew that he wasn't going to sell as many records. So how does that have to do with anything? You know what I mean? So it's just it's a depressing thought, you know what I mean? And I promise that on the next episode of the Power Right Show, I'm going to talk to you about good music, because on that day that Drake came out, a lot of great music came out. If you like hip-hop, if you're not into hip-hop, then you're going to listen to Drake, right? And it's like almost like 10 albums, though, you know? And I'm not even including all those SD-NAC and all those albums that really have some merit to speak about, you know? And we'll be talking about that. We'll be having more guests. The next couple of shows, I have some guests lined up. We'll see if they come. You know how MCs are, you know what I'm saying? They're always doing something, right? But if they come by and we'll build with them, we'll get some real details, you know? So until the next time, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce. I'm your host, Sunez, and as always, the Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast.